This is the ABC 3LO in Melbourne and the shortwave station VLR. It's 25 past 10. We must apologise for this delay.
The ABC, read by Peter Smith. The ruling Congress party in India has agreed to a demand to give the nation's Sikhs a state of their own. According to a resolution adopted by party leaders, including the Prime Minister.
Well, as there's no sign of the news, which we should have had about a minute ago, we'll have a little music and, if possible, join the news in just a moment. We can now
Details were given to Ceylon's parliament last night of the alleged attempt by a group of soldiers to overthrow the Ceylonese government. 9 NCOs have so far been arrested in connection with the alleged plot. The acting head of government, Mr. J. Jayawardena, told the Ceylon House of Representatives that government officers had learned on February the 17th that the soldiers planned to assassinate top cabinet ministers and take over the state radio station. They also planned...
Well, this is the most unusual set of circumstances. It seems that the news is to be lost to us completely. So we'll have a little music.
Now the Victorian news read by Ian Blakey. The inquest into the Southern Aurora rail smash was told in Melbourne today that the driver of the express, Mr. John Bowden, was dead before the accident. The senior Victorian government pathologist, Mr. James McNamara, said Bowden, aged 52, of Wodonga, had died from heart failure and not from his injuries. The pathologist said it was impossible to say how long before the crash that Bowden had died. He said that it was possible that he remained seated in the same position without anyone else being aware that anything else was but alive. The city coroner, Mr. Pascoe, is holding inquests on 9 people who died when the Southern Aurora and a goods train crashed head-on near the northern Victorian town of Violet Town on February the 17th.
We regret this interruption to the news. It will be continued in a moment.
This is the news from the ABC, read by Paul Mackay. I'm sorry about that. I swallowed some water the wrong way. And now, here are the headlines. The federal budget will be introduced on August the 11th.
This is the national news from the ABC, read by Bruce Webster. Here are the headlines. The Commonwealth Insurance Commissioner has begun a formal investigation into investments by the MLC Group in the electrical goods chain of H.G. Palmer's. The United States intends to increase bombing of North Vietnam's supply routes to the south. Government backbenchers are expected to move amendments to the Commonwealth's legislation on restrictive trade practices. The United States proposes to increase its bombing of North Vietnam. The American Defense Secretary, Mr. McNamara, told newsmen in Washington last night that there would be increasing emphasis on the bombing of infiltration routes in the north. The American commander in South Vietnam, General Westmoreland, said early this week that the bombing so far had failed to stop daily reinforcement of North Vietnamese units in the south.
Boycott not out 75, sipping tea now, we hope. Randall not out 7. Join us again after tea at about 25 to. Meanwhile, back to the studio.
Thank you for the total boredom. And we'll be back to Trent Bridge in about 15 minutes' time for resumption of play. You're tuned to ABC Radio with the boredom. Eastern time is 20 minutes past 1. ABC News. The federal government has ordered a review of the efficiency of the Department of Social Security in an attempt to prune the welfare budget, which last year represented 25% of total government expenditure. The government has asked for the review to be completed within 6 months. It's to be conducted by the Public Service Board, but may involve the employment of outside management consultants. The New South Wales government has announced the setting up a Royal Commission into drug trafficking. The State Premier, Mr. Rann, named Mr. Justice Philip Woodward of the Supreme Court as the Royal Commissioner. Hearings are expected to begin within 2 weeks. Mr. Rann said the terms of reference have been drafted to allow the fullest investigation into the cultivation, production, manufacture, distribution, supply, possession, and the use of prohibited and addictive drugs. Most firms in Australia's depressed building society expect things to get worse instead of better, according to a survey by the ANZ Bank.
We were to have had a Tuesday night feature, but unfortunately we can't find it. So in its place we have some light music, and I can't pretend that this has been prepared with any great expertise. It's just off the cuff, as it were. So here we go. Frank Sinatra.
This news comes to you from the ABC.
For Christ's sake, shut up!
An Australian Boer War officer, shot by a British firing squad 62 years ago, is to be honoured at Bathurst, New South Wales tomorrow.